So at Carmel River State Beach, this is one of the unique systems in the world that we can get to easily and observe sand moving around in real time. From the environmental perspective, what I care about is the lagoon waters behind me and whether or not they have good water quality and enough depth and the right temperature for endangered species such as steelhead trout. I like to monitor how many times this beach opens and closes during the winter time, trying to keep track of how much sand is leaving the system over a long-term period. Over seasons, should we worry about this beach disappearing? How does this beach respond to things like climate change? From the Navy side, this is something that I've had to learn since coming to NPS, and that's been a great challenge and a great pleasure of mine to learn this. And my students have been helping me educate myself better as to what the naval operational needs are for beaches. And to put it succinctly, it's more with amphibious operations, with beach landings and or special forces in the water, trying to deal with the environment as they approach a beach, either in a contested area or even just for practicing down at places like Camp Pendleton. And so right now, if you were to think about trying to have people in the water, you would want to know things about how big are the waves going to be? Is there a river? Is the river open? Because that might change your strategy as to whether or not you need to send people in the water versus a small craft that could go through this inlet, and now all of a sudden you have access to this protected back lagoon. So there's a lot of different play here in terms of just the variability from season to season, but also from sort of beach to beach, because you just don't know what's going to happen until you actually start to look at each system.
When I was in your lab, I saw a number of pieces of cool equipment, and one of the things was a cool drone that
Yes.
you wanted to try out. Talk a little bit about what you do in terms of the kinds of ways that you attack the engineering questions and the science questions of the oceans and of the beaches.
Absolutely, great question. So in California, as I mentioned, this system is accessible. I like to come to Carmel River, but I haven't mentioned there are over 270 such systems in California alone. And so this is not a unique system. Globally speaking, these systems are all over the world in places like South Africa, the west coast of Europe, and Australia. And if I were to have to go to every single one of them to be able to monitor them, that would be exhausting and just completely impractical. And so one of the things in California that I have been trying to do is to use drones, to use satellite imagery, and to use in situ measurements to come up with this hybrid approach to monitoring them.
What has been one or two of the revealing new ideas or new discoveries that you've made in these 4 years that you say, I have learned those because I'm here? Whether or not you're in Monterey Bay or the NPS, 2 or 3 of your discoveries?
Well, from a science perspective, I've always been very curious about how beaches actually build themselves up. How do you get water above the surface of the ocean and to what we're standing on right now? So this has been something that's been a perfect test bed to study because this happens all the time down here. So I can actually study that.
What is your view, your theory about leadership as a master in the physical sciences and in the human endeavor of learning? What is your view about leadership?
I strive to be a leader both in terms of the academic rigor, but also in terms of just showing young kids that you can do science and have fun with it. You can do this, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to suffer or have to work too hard. Science careers can be fun and things like this. I find it just critical to have that level of engagement with the community, and I consider that a level of leadership that's through action. NPS is the central point of so many different activities that we can do through STEM education, both of our officers, but with outreach to local communities. Just doing things at the beach also brings together people of policy from state parks, from national marine sanctuaries, from county resource management agency, and all sorts of people, beachgoers, birds, all sorts of different habitats. They all sort of meet in the middle here. And so it's been such a delight to work at NPS and to be able to convey these sort of environmental perspectives to the operational side and vice versa, and have that sort of intersection of all of that community there.